And now we're going to have a video from Sweeny's.
So, good evening everyone. You're all very welcome to Sweeny's Chemist here in number 1 Lincoln Place. We're an old early Victorian chemist. The building was bought by Mark Sweny in 1847. He ran it as his consulting room for 6 years, and then he transferred it over to one of his sons, who was a chemist. It stayed in the family, and the last of them, who was Frederick, died in 1926, but it was in that family from the early mid 1800s until then, and then it went on to other Irish chemists, and so it stayed working as a functioning chemist or pharmacy until 2009. In February of that year, it closed down when the 2 ladies who ran it, the Quinn sisters, retired. They turned the key in the door, they left it exactly as it was. We came here in 2009 at the end of October, and after 11.5 years, which we're almost here now, it's become the 10th most interesting place to visit in Dublin. We've managed to achieve that with the help of our volunteers, which they come from all over the world, and particularly students or people who are from here who are retired, or people with just time to spend and they want to find something interesting to do. So when I came in here first, we had €500 to pay as a rent. So, but we had no money coming in, and we had no funding, and we still have no funding. We've had funding for maybe since the past 2 years. The T.S. Eliot Fund gave us about 5,000 in sterling, which is about 6,000 in euro, and Welch's Whiskey, they give us 4.2 thousand. So we've to find the rest ourselves. And at the time, say over 11 years ago, our rent was €500. Since then, it's gone up a week. And since then, it's gone up to €673 a week, which €500 a week was more 11 years ago, with nothing coming through the door, than the 673 a week, because we had lots of people coming from all over the world, and anybody who's read Ulysses, they would come here and they would go away with a souvenir, and they would buy a bar of lemon soap, or they would buy a book. We sell all of Joyce's books here as well. We even sell older editions, which are more expensive, but the average Joycean book here costs €6, so it's easy to carry and it's afforded by everyone. So we found different ways of, my background was retail. I did a degree in retail, but I was a shoe buyer. So I worked dealing with people and traveling to buy shoes, bring them back to Ireland and to sell them here and to make a profit. So I know how to cost things and to more or less what will make things attractive for people when they want to buy something, and that's how we managed to pay the rent. But the biggest plus we had was the number of volunteers who came in and worked. We had people who were just students, we had people who were air hostesses, we had people who were pilots, we were people from all parts of the world, including Greece and of course all the continent, and many from the States. And they helped us by giving us their time to keep the doors open, and also to greet people when they came in and make them feel welcome and offer them a cup of tea. We've always offered people a cup of tea when they came in. And then we decided we'd start readings of Joyce. So we started with Ulysses, and then we read Dubliners as well. So we'd have readings every day of the week between 1 and 2, and in the evenings as well. And so Ulysses was in the evening, and then Finnegan's Wake was on a Monday between 1 and 2, and then Dubliners was every day, most days in fact, between 1 and 2, and then Portrait of the Artist, his autobiography, that was once a week. But on top of that, because of Joyce's great expertise and knowledge of languages, we decided, and we have many translations which are all up on the shelves here, we decided we'd do Ulysses in French, because he lived in Paris for 20 years, and also in Italian, because his 2 children were born in Trieste, which is part of the Austrian Empire at the time. And when he would you'd send a letter to Joyce when he lived there, it was Trieste, Austria, and then it reverted back to Italy. So we did them in French and Italian, and then Portuguese and Spanish and German. So we had those 5 languages going as well. And soon we hope to include Greek, because let's face it, Odysseus and Ulysses, they're the same, except different languages. In chapter 5 in Ulysses, when Leopold Bloom comes in here, he's been sent by his wife, Molly, and he's never been here before, so he's wondering where the place is. But he's been sent in to buy face cream for her. She's a soprano, and she used to use this cream which made her skin so beautifully white. And he also buys orange flower water for her. This is the orange flower water here, and it's made to the recipe in chapter 5 as near as we could find. However, for himself, he was going to the Turkish bath, which there's a picture of them here, and he needed to buy a bar of lemon soap. So he buys this bar of lemon soap for himself, and the Turkish bath used to be at the end of this block. It's now the Cervantes Institute, or the Spanish Institute, where they teach Spanish, but he buys this bar of lemon soap for himself. So we again found someone who would make it for us as close to the recipe as is in chapter 5 in our Ulysses. It's in fact in the Wordsworth edition, it's mentioned on page 75, both the orange flower water and the soap. And then we, of course, we wrap it like this in brown paper and with our little tag on it, and then it goes all over the world. It goes in many pockets because in it Leopold carries it in his pocket, and it features in many of the chapters as well. So it's a very important product for us because people buy it, it's easy to carry, and it's a lovely gift to give as well. So, and then we also sell it in a lovely box like this with the James Joyce on the outside. This is all rescued wood that was would have been thrown in skips, and one of our volunteers, Gleber from Brazil, he makes these. His wife or his partner is a journalist, so she picks the quotes from chapter 5 in Ulysses. So you can have them on the outside and the inside, and then a nice little bar of soap comes in the center, and of course you have this burnt effect on the wood as well, which makes a beautiful gift. Dubliners at the end, the last one, The Dead, there's a lovely song. Yes. That's a Scottish song called The Lass of Aughrim. So again, it's one of the most famous. But the nice thing about it is it only lasts a minute. Songs that last too long quite often are too long. So yeah, we can do that one. So in Joyce's first book, The Dubliners, which is a collection of 15 stories, and most of them are quite short, except the last one called The Dead. And there's a beautiful song in that called The Lass of Aughrim. It's a song from Scotland, 1760, and it tells the story of the local lord falling in love with the local village girl, and of course he goes off to sea without telling her, leaving her with more than just a kiss. So when her babe is born, she goes to the castle gates, and his mother or brother won't let her in. So this song is The Lass of Aughrim. If you be the lass of Aughrim, as you're telling me you be, tell me the first token that passed between you and me. Oh, do you remember that night on yon lean hill, when we first met together? I'm sorry now to tell. Oh, the rain, it falls on my heavy locks, and the dew, it wets my skin. My babe lies cold within my arms. Lord Gregory, let me in. My babe lies cold within my arms. Lord Gregory, let me in. So all chemists have clients who come in and they are patients and they order prescriptions, and of course they don't come back to collect them. And of course Sweny's here in Lincoln Place is no exception, and we have lots of prescription here from pre-1904. wrapped in their brown paper and their string, which still are awaiting collection, and we still have them here. Most of them are herbal. We even found a little package of opium here one day as well, so we won't say what happened to that. So these are all, little packages which are still here in the chemist. So when people come, especially chemists, when they come from all over the world, they're always fascinated to find a chemist that dates back so far, and yet we still have the prescriptions in the way they were presented, say, pre-1904 and in the 18th century, because chemists were great, they never threw anything out. In Ulysses, in a chapter called Sirens, there's a song called The Croppy Boy. The Croppy Boy was about a young boy, a young man, a youth in 1798 who was going to fight against the English. And before he goes to fight, he decides to go to confession to his local church. And he goes in and he asks to see his priest, Father Green, and without realizing that the priest had already been taken by the yeomen, and they were the English. And instead of the priest being there, there's a yeoman captain in its stead. So the priest, the song tells the story of this young youth, and of course they were called the Croppy Boys because they used to cut their hair very short with the help of the sheep shears, and they were quite distinctive as to who they were because of this. So this was in 1798, and this particular song is from the southeast. It's in Wexford, which again was a very Norman enclave as well. So, and it goes like this. Good men and true in this house who dwell, to a stranger buchel I pray thee tell. Is the priest at home, or may he be seen? I would speak a word with Father Green. The priest's at home and he may be seen. Sure 'tis easy speaking with Father Green. Ah, but you must wait till I go and see if the Holy Father alone may be. The youth has entered an empty hall. What a lonely sound his light footfall. In an empty chamber, quite chill and bare, was a vested priest in a lowly chair. The youth has knelt to tell his sins. In Nomine Dei the youth begins, and at mea culpa he strikes his breast, and in murmured tones he speaks the rest. I cursed 3 times on Easter Day, and once at Mass time I went to play. And I passed the churchyard one day in haste, and forgot to pray for my mother's rest. At the siege of Ross did my father fall, and at Gorey my loving brothers all. I alone am left of my name and race, and I go to Wexford to take their place. I bear no hate against living thing, but I love my country above that king. So Father, bless me and let me go to die if God has ordained it so. The priest said naught, but a rustling noise made the youth look up in wild surprise. The robes were all fanned in scarlet. There was a yeoman cavalry with fiery glare. With fiery glare and with fury hoarse, instead of a blessing he uttered a curse. 'Twas good of you, boy, to come here to shrive. For one short hour is your time alive. Upon yon river tree tenders float, the priest's in one if he isn't short. And I hold his house for my lord the king, and amen I say, may all traitors swing. At Geneva barracks that young man died, and at Passage his body lies. All you good people who like peace and joy, stop and shed a tear for the croppy boy.